Lord, 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 here we are. This is what life has come to. Age 34 years old, sitting in front of a camera, talking to nobody in a room, trying to grow this podcast platform. No friends, no close relationships, body slowly decaying. And life comes at you fast. Here we are. But I just wanted to make this self-reflection video today because I am about 2 weeks after completing my goal for releasing 21 episodes for my podcast, Wellness on the Rocks. And I did a reflection video to thank all 21 guests. So awesome of you guys. I will always support you guys. But I wanted to make this episode today to kind of talk about my process and reflect. Because I think as a struggling creative, somebody who is trying to work my way into the creative industry as a profession with this podcasting space, with restaurants, with growth, with mental health, with entertainment, comedy, whatever you want to call all of these things that I'm doing, I think it's really important to reflect and talk about these things. And if I'm being completely honest, I don't have anybody in my life who understands what I'm doing and that I can sit there and talk to and bounce ideas off and say, what do you think about this? Did you like this? How can I do this better? So I thought I'd take the time to just put this out there to the world. And if anybody connects with this, if you think I'm nuts, that I should be in a loony house, or if you love what I'm doing, or if you think I'm a total fucking idiot, let me know. I think feedback through any sort of creative process is really important. And I asked, I've released a 20 seconds episode since completing my goal with Francesca. And I reached out to her. I said, hey, did you get any feedback on the episode? And she's like, oh, so much feedback. So many people said they loved it and talked to me. And that's awesome. And I just remember I was in the moment. I was like, dude, not one person said anything to me about the episode or the process. And that's life. I guess I'm not trying to complain about that. But it is interesting that it's been a very lonely process. Starting about a year and a half ago, coming up with the idea of launching this thing. And, at first you get that when I first released, I got that wave of, oh my God, so cool. That's so great. And then, over the time, people kind of stop acknowledging or listening or whatever that is. And that's fine. I'm not trying to come on here and say that I need that applause and that feeling that I'm doing good and that encouragement. But like I just said, I think relatability is important. I think that's what we kind of do in the hospitality industry. And as a bartender, is we connect with people and we relate to them and we listen to them. And it sucks. It's just challenging. So I thought I'm going to keep doing these. I don't have the last 5 Mondays I was able to edit, record, prospect social media clips for 5 individual guests in 5 episodes. And to keep that ball spinning is, it's an incredibly challenging thing to do, especially when I'm working a full-time job behind the bar, late nights, so I wasn't able to keep it going. In a perfect world, I would do this professionally. I would do this full-time, and I'd be pumping these out week by week. I love the process, dude. It's so much fun. But I'm going to just, keep the creative juices flowing and come on here and talk about my process today. So after that long intro, here we go. I think one thing that I noticed when I do go back and reflect on this process, especially with the social media clips, is how cringeworthy I can be in some of these episodes and moments. And I look back at the clips and I go, oh, dude, I'm kind of a fucking I'm kind of a dweeb. Super fake, phony, however else, whatever adjectives you could describe that. And I'm okay with it. I think the ability to try and put yourself out there and show uncomfortability and not give a fuck whether people laugh or like it or hate it. I think that's like a really important part of this creative process. And whatever your music, arts, drawing, painting, podcasting, comedy, like whatever you're trying to do. So it's kind of like a humbling experience to look back and be like, I thought I was fucking crushing it when I'm releasing these. And I'm like, oh, dude, like, I don't know how I feel about that now. But, you know, I think another thing about this creative process that has helped me in my professional world is with my work as a bartender. Like, I think we always think we're these like great, whatever we're doing. Oh, I'm a great businessman. I'm a great athlete. I'm a great bartender. Once I started talking about this industry, it made me really reflect on like who I was and how I was at my job. And it was really humbling because I'm like, dude, I'm putting all this information out to the world about what it takes to be this great hospitality person. Like, am I really as good as I think I am or that I'm talking about? And I kind of realized like there's some foundational elements to this industry that I kind of needed to work on and that nobody will ever tell me. And that goes kind of back to the feedback, man. We are in this like world of applause and you're doing so great and we're cheering anything on. But like, it depends on what kind of job you're at. Some people are at really intense restaurants where it's like the standard is very high. Like, we need you to be better, be better, be better. I have such an incredible job. I work at Stout Public House, Irish pub downtown. The one thing I've realized is that I don't really nobody gives me feedback. Nobody says, Taylor, you're doing a good job, or Taylor, you're doing a poor job. It's just like, you can come in, you can be a mess, or you can hold yourself to a higher standard, or you can just go through the motions and nobody's ever going to say anything. And there's pros and cons to that. The pro is like, oh, just do whatever you want. But the con is you can develop some poor habits professionally when nobody is checking you or looking over your shoulder or holding you to a higher standard. You have to learn how to hold yourself to a higher standard. So it's like something I kind of noticed early on is like, I need to, we get older in these careers and you have to be able to like look at yourself in the mirror and like reflect and be like, how am I at my job? Like, I don't know. It's just little things that I think about. So that's one thing I kind of noticed, or I've kind of reflected on through this process is like, am I as good as I am kind of thinking about? What else, dude? What else is going on in this that I can talk about on the self-reflection episode? I think a big reason why I started creating is because, like I said, like I do have, it's been a lonely life. It's been a lonely process. And I am, you start to get into your mid-30s and I'm like, fuck, dude, I don't really have many friends in this city, or like real friends where I can talk to honestly. And I kind of use this as a way to like go for something and, not just take up the time, but it's like, okay, before I wasn't doing this podcast process, it's your off nights. What do? You go to the local bar and you throw them back and you spend money and, you can only go to the gym for so many hours a day. And even though we are here in this great city of San Diego, like, it's tough when you're by yourself. I think it's tough when you're by yourself to, like, what do you do with your time? And this creative process has definitely been like a selfish way, even though I bring on these guests and I talk to them about their careers and their lives. This has been a way for me to, fill this void that I have. And I feel like maybe like a big part of my life, I've felt like I've had like a lack of control. And I think there's been a lot of chaos. There's been a lot of movements. I've moved around so many different cities over the years. I've never had like this like foundational like like where I'm just like, I don't know. I didn't feel like I had agency in a lot of areas of my life. And I was like, if you can kind of start your own thing, that can sort of give you some sort of foundation that you can grow from. And this has kind of been that for me. And it's been a huge fucking learning process. Like from the technical aspect, from simply sitting in a chair with somebody, hosting a conversation for 2 hours with a camera rolling, making them feel comfortable, taking elements of the hospitality industry that I've learned and applying them to my own small business that I'm trying to start, that I've made $0 fucking dollars at so far. But yeah, it's tough, dude. It's a tough process. I didn't realize when I started, I was naive and thought, oh, people just line up and come onto this thing. No, dude, I have to go get these people. I know podcasts, the big ones, they have like PR agencies and they have like a networking team and they're reaching out. Like, I'm like small business podcasts. And every single guest that came on, I had to reach out to, go visit, get to know. I knew some of them at the bar, right? Like some of my early guests were regulars at the bar. They're great people. I'd kind of been talking to them and like figuring out with it. But like for like 2/3 of the people, I have to go sell myself to essentially. And it's a lot, dude. It's especially like me not really being a name. I didn't grow up here. Like I do work at this industry bar, but like it's also like I'm a guy, and guys do get a little chesty when you come around the bar and with other women and the bartenders. I've often find sometimes people get like, I don't know what the word is. I gotta start reading more fucking vocabulary books or dictionaries or something like that. They just get like territorial, I guess. So I have to be like really respectful, professional, and like careful with how I'm pitching this thing. And I know that I've had like a lot of women on recently. That's not by design. I think women have gravitated towards this thing a lot more than men because they're comfortable sort of like with open expression and putting themselves out there. And I just want people to know, like, I'm prospecting with men in this industry too. It is not just women. I'm not just like taking that shortcut. And yeah, and it's like, how do you have that conversation? How do I roll up to a restaurant, a bar, or pitch people on social media or emails and be like, hey, like, this is who it requires a lot of vulnerability. And it's tough as any sort of artist to just like keep putting yourself out there and for the world to see. It's so, you know, that's been something that's been like a big challenge for me, is because I'm used to just staying in my little shell. And it's very easy to just go through life like that and to not open up to people and to just, this is who I am. I'm not going to change. Accept yourself. And I can't tell people how to live their lives, but I am somebody who is trying to create this podcast platform of open expression and honesty and dialogue, and to be a place where people feel comfortable to come and express themselves without judgments. And I think that's like a big theme of as I grow in life, and especially as a bartender, I'm never going to tell somebody that, like, so many people you learn when you work at a bar have different ideas and the way they grew up and the way they view the world and the way they view politics and the way of culture, religion, like everything. I really, and especially with where we are today with social media, and you're wrong if you don't, have this left-wing liberal view of the world, like you're a fucking scumbag, we're not going to your bar. Like I hear that a lot. And I think that both sides of the political spectrum get expression wrong in some ways. And I never want to turn this platform into politics, because I think my honest opinion on that is both of the people who are running for presidents were fucking idiots in the way they ran their campaigns and stuff, and that's a whole nother topic. But I do really like having a place where people can open up and just like speak freely. Because I don't feel like there's very many places for that, especially when you work in a restaurant. And maybe that's a good thing, right? Like maybe coming on when you represent a brand and talking about your ideas might not be good for business. So that's been like a really big thing that I've had to like figure out. It's like, is this a good idea to do this? I don't know. Because I want to take this thing like so much like deeper and more honest, but I'm always afraid of my guests don't really sign up for that. My guests are kind of here representing a brand. And I've actually like reached out to some like comedians, like up and coming, not like big, huge names, but like, yo, like, would you want to come on here and treat this like a stand-up thing and like really get into some shit and have like open discussion dialogue? And, one person I met with, I had coffee with, and they were like, oh, I have kids now. I'm not really practicing. I got to be careful with what I say. And yeah, I get it. I totally get it. I guess I'm just one of those people where I don't really have that outlet for myself in other areas of my life. And so I'm like, I like that I can do this. I don't know. What else would I like to talk? There's so many things I want to talk about today. Yeah, I think this platform is not, like I was just kind of talking about, it's not really a space where I'm trying to sell a product. I don't want to come on here with an agenda. I want to just come on here and have this like free flowing space where people could be themselves. When you take out that element, that's where like real discussion and conversation and dialogue happen, as opposed to coming in with a narrative and a brand. I think that, I want people to relate. I want to create a space where people can say, oh, wow, I actually like learned something from that guy, or that person, that guest, or whatever it is, I think that's what kind of like connects people together, is when you can break down barriers and have real conversations. That's where real growth happens, And I think one thing I realized, that we are kind of these not everybody, but I think I was sort of this person who assumed everyone was always thinking about me. And I think as bartenders, we kind of get that a little bit, because we go into work, everyone gives us attention, and we get that you're so great. And we think that everyone's the reality is nobody really gives a fuck about anything we do. And we do have the freedom to take chances and put ourselves out there regardless of the judgments that people give us. Once you do realize nobody gives a fuck about you, it kind of frees your mind in this creative space to just put out whatever you want without that fear of judgment. And that was really hard for me. Yeah, especially at first, because what would happen is when I launched this thing, I'd show up to work, and every day people would just be like, you're doing a podcast. But I'd turn the corner to my job, and someone would just go, podcast. And I was like, what the fuck, dude? At first it was this thing for me where I was like, I have my work self and I have my podcast self, and I have my professional face here, and everyone knows my professional face. And then I'm kind of showing all these people what I'm really when I'm not behind a bar representing a brand. And it was just oh fuck, this is really kind of uncomfortable for me. And I think that as I've gone through this thing, I've kind of blended both together a little bit. I kind of give a little bit more in the bar and maybe pull back a little bit more in the podcast, and sort of create this space of, this is yeah, maybe that sounds super psychotic or whatever. I have no idea. I don't know. These are the things that I think about. Yeah, sometimes I think about that. I'm 34 years old. Is this a waste of my time? Is this whole process, the energy I put into this, am I going to look back at this and say, I wish I was utilizing my time better? The money I've spent with the equipment, the money I spent going out visiting guests, that's arguably the time spent prepping for this, editing those clips. I do all of that myself. You wouldn't believe. I edit all those social media clips on Premiere Pro. I mean, they take forever. And I know there's AI platforms that do it for you. And I've kind of just started looking into that and stuff. But I don't know. There was this personal touch that I really enjoyed. Yo, I'm going to and maybe that's where this control, I need this sense of control. I have this hard time lending out control to people. But I want to touch every part of this. I want somebody, a professional, to look at this and recognize like, oh wow, this person actually does have some talent when it comes to this creative process, that this podcasting, restaurant, hospitality, social media, editing, podcasting space. But what I gave with that, instead of paying somebody to do it or having AI do it, is my time. And I've made some mistakes along the way. There's so many things that I look back at and I say, oh, I wish I would have made a difference. I would have made a change there. I think every guest has been so different, trying to, some people have been super into this. Like, I like that we're communicating. I like this. I don't like this. This is how I want it to be. And I'm like, fucking love it, dude. When a guest is into this thing, it makes it so much easier. The conversation flows, the editing, the social media. And some guests have just been like, whatever, dude, like do whatever. I did it. I knocked it off my list. And that's been that. And that's okay. It's been a huge fucking learning process. If I could talk about maybe some of my biggest challenges, I think with art, when you don't fully commit and put yourself out there, you do kind of produce some cheesy, lame art, right? Like, it's safe to stay hidden, but when you fully commit and completely put yourself out there for people, like, there's risks in showing those vulnerabilities. And I think it's a really difficult thing to do. And I've kind of had to that's something that I've learned throughout this process. And I'm okay with that. I think the older you get, you kind of just say, fuck it, dude. Like, I'm kind of lame. I'm not this perfect guy. I do have flaws. And it is what it is. It's a good thing. It's like a humbling process. What else? What else can I talk about today on this self-reflection video number 1, or I guess 5? Okay. Some of the lessons that I've learned. When people criticize my work or other guests or other people, I think this is like a really important thing that I've learned through this process is people's criticisms are often a reflection of how they feel about themselves. That is so fucking true that I've learned. And that doesn't mean I don't welcome criticism. I don't welcome feedback. I really do. There's been people who have looked at what I'm doing here with this podcast platform and said, dude, I think what you're doing is so fucking cool. I think you should keep going. I love it. It's fucking great. And then there's people who look at me and they go, you're a fucking idiot. You're a loser. I think you're lame. I think it's bad. I don't really, you're at work. And it's like, that's often like a reflection of how they're experienced through life. And there have been some really confident people who have like said, hey man, good job, keep it up. And I do appreciate that. And I also I don't get down when people kind of criticize this thing. I say, fine. I just look and I go, huh. I realized whether I'm at my job at Stout or other bars I've worked at in the past. So a thing working in restaurants is people will criticize the bar and they will criticize you, and they take their frustrations out on the establishment. And I learned really early that I worked at a bar in New Jersey, and I remember when I first started working there, this guy came in and said, hey man, I'm with this little company, and what we do is we fill spaces for empty bars. If you guys are having trouble with traffic, we will bring our people in here once a week, once every other week for this like poker session. We'll hold our poker games here. But the catch is you're going to pay us a fee, and you're going to give us discounted prices. And we can't guarantee every time that there's going to be this amount of people that come in. And I looked at him. I was like, oh, bringing traffic. I'm young. I don't really know what the fuck's going on. And I was like, oh, let me just tell the manager. And the manager looks at me. He's like, tell that guy to fuck off. And the guy goes, you guys are stupid. You're wrong. You should hire us. Like, you're dumb for not hiring us. You guys are fucking idiots. This place is probably going to fail. Whatever. the point of that story that I didn't really tell correctly is that like people will try to like it's like a little sales tactic that people do where they roll into. Yeah, I don't really know if that's the best way to put that. Yeah. What else? What else can I talk about? Yeah. Maybe some criticisms. Let me talk about some criticisms. I never understood why people don't really share or like my work on social media. I see like a lot of people who they'll put a post of them in a bathing suit or something and they'll be like, "Go Patriots," and they get like hundreds of likes and comments and shit like that. And I like put so much effort into trying to create this work and like nobody really fucks with me or like my so-called friends or family or whatever it is. And like, this is a product that I'm trying to grow and promote. And, I just don't understand. I guess like, I don't understand why I'm not, why like people aren't posting the shit to their stories or they're not commenting or, you know, I don't really have that like bubble of a network where people I don't really have a support system with this, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. And you know, sometimes I see videos on social media where it's like, what do you like better? Fucking Cosmopolitan or a martini? And they're like, oh, well, I'd like martinis. And everyone goes, oh, he likes martinis. Like fast food, social media consumption. And it gets all these likes and shares. And it's like, look at us go out of control. And I never really wanted to create work like that. I'm trying to create work that actually connects with people and has like sustenance. And, you know, it's weird. It's weird that like the fast acting, shitty, dumb stuff gets so much attention. But when I try to put myself out there and give people like an honest reflection of the people in the city and like what they've been through and promoting their brands, oftentimes doesn't get that much traction. Just a thought I had, you know? Yeah. I guess I'm not like, with that said, I'm not trying to like sell the culture of this industry. I'm trying to just like give back to those people. You know, there are so many talented people here in the city, and it's I try to look at what I do as more like documentaries as opposed to this is my best, you know, shot at that. And it might not look like that. It might not feel like that, but that's what I'm trying to do. And that is the feedback I have gotten. It's very like vulnerable. And I think, I mean, you can kind of play with that. Some people are about that, but like, I'm just okay with it. I guess that's what I didn't plan on doing that when I started this, but that's kind of been what's come out. Maybe some of my challenges, like, you know, dude, I can't get guests talking to the fucking microphone. Why is everybody like the way my microphones work is it's a condenser mic, right? So I can use this mic in areas where there's music and in the crowds. I could take these microphones to a bar. You look on a lot of these like these popular podcast platforms and they have these Shure M7 mics. Those are like the professional studio mics. Those mics are used for quiet studios with like soundproofed walls and stuff like that. Like I got fucking planes flying overhead. I got 2 dogs in my living room. I got lawnmowers going off. I can, you know, it's been like just from a technical challenge, bro, trying to get people to like, you can't talk into the microphone like this. It doesn't fucking pick it up. And I don't know. It's like the communication of me to all my fucking guests. Talk into the fucking microphone. Another challenge I've had technically is with the camera distortion. I use one wide angle lens and I use that in Premiere Pro to cut up into 2 different camera angles. And I sit me and the guest at 45-degree angles. So it's not like you're looking at a perfect side angle like this and you're not looking straight on. It's my way of trying to create that like multicam look. The reality is the distortion with the wide angle lens makes us look stretched out and wider. And what I've learned towards the end of this podcast platform is I can, you know, take that clip and I can shrink it in Premiere Pro to make it look more flattering. And it's like someone like me, I don't care about that. But when you're bringing on women who do care about their image and the way they look on camera, like it's a big fucking deal. And I think I probably should have like learned that earlier, how important that is when bringing these people on. Yeah, feedback with that would have been nice from somebody, and that's it's just feedback too. I'm trying to come up with all these things in my head. Am I crazy? Probably. I have no idea. But yeah, dude. My advice to anybody who wants to start this, I think you should. I think the podcast platform is a fucking great spot. I think there's an ocean of creativity that you could start with this. You don't need super fancy equipment. I have a nice camera. I had the nice camera long before I started the podcast platform. You don't need to film it. You can buy a couple cheap mics for $20 online, a small little audio recording device that you could hook up to your laptop, or there's like ones you don't need with that. I think putting yourself out there and trying to start new projects is really healthy. And I think failing at those things and realizing this is who I am and makes people grow. But I'm going to continue this process. This has been kind of a weird first fucking self-reflection video. And I'm going to try to just constantly be in the state of creating and putting myself out there and trying to grow and connect with people and keep the creative juices flowing and get comfortable with the microphone. Like ideally I would do this every day, and I'm going to start trying to. It's like, how do you fill up, that air time with like things that are worth people listening for, where it's not just about you. But yeah, dude, I do have an episode planned. Hopefully episode 23 gets filmed and recorded this Friday, and I'll, maybe I put out 2 of these a month. But I really want to connect with other people who are creative and who are trying to grow in this industry and stuff like that. And it's a weird process, dude. It's a weird process. If anyone wants to connect about this stuff, if anyone wants to try it and reach out to me and say, hey man, like how do I do this? I love talking about these things. I love talking about, the creative process, because it's pretty cool. I follow a lot of like the popular podcasts and I watch how they do it, and I'm always like, oh, that's how his intro is, that's how he connects with guests, the technical stuff, the way they sit, the microphones, the topics, like the intros, everything. It's a really cool space. I think like as I used to be such a big sports fan, the reality is I want to still compete, Like, I don't want to just be a spectator. I still got it. I still have that drive. I still have that competitiveness to grow in business and, try to start this. Like, I might fail at this, but I also might succeed. And I think that you just keep taking chances and keep taking risks and keep putting yourself out there. And if you're learning from these mistakes when you fail, like, that's growth, and that's how you do succeed. And I always never thought this was going to be a overnight success. I mean, a part of me wanted it to be. I would have loved to do 6 episodes and get hired by somebody and do a job. But the reality is, like, it might take a couple of years of growth and learning and failing and figuring out how this thing works. And I'm okay with that. As long as these legs are moving, I'm going to keep doing this. So I am kind of nuts, and that's okay. But I got to figure out, I got to break through that uncomfortability. And whoever you are, if you're in this industry, if you're an artist, if you're a creative, if you're an athlete, if you're somebody who's trying to grow in business, a restaurant, bartender, owner, and you want to come on and talk about some of these topics, and you listen to this and you connect, reach out to me. I'm always at the bar at Stout Public House. I'm there Fridays, Saturdays, and Mondays, and I pick up throughout the week, almost every week. And yeah, I like connecting with people on this topic. So thank you for, if anybody is still listening to this, we're 33 minutes in. It's kind of weird, but I'm going to keep doing them. So thank you very much.